Every single day, more than 1,600 people die from cancer in America alone. That's over 600,000 lives lost each year. And that number continues to rise year after year. With all our modern medical advancements and cutting-edge technology, shouldn't we be seeing the opposite? Shouldn't the death toll be dropping? If the experts truly knew what they were doing, why is cancer still spreading like wildfire? These hard questions are what inspired Dr. Thomas Seyfried to look at cancer from a completely different angle, one that challenges the very core of modern medical beliefs. Dr. Seyfried is not just another researcher repeating what's already been said. He is a pioneer who dares to question the mainstream narrative. While conventional medicine insists that cancer is primarily a genetic disease caused by random mutations in DNA, Dr. Seyfried argues that the true root of cancer lies not in our genes, but in our metabolism. According to him, cancer is not born from faulty DNA, but from broken energy systems within our cells. In particular, he points the finger at mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside our cells that generate the energy we need to live. This idea is revolutionary and deeply unsettling for many because it flips everything we've been taught about cancer upside down. But Dr. Seyfried's work builds upon the foundational research of another brilliant mind, Otto Warburg, a Nobel Prize-winning scientist who nearly 100 years ago observed something strange in cancer cells. Unlike healthy cells that use oxygen to create energy, cancer cells ferment sugar, even when oxygen is available. This odd process, called the Warburg effect, was largely pushed aside by the genetic theory of cancer. But Dr. Seyfried believes it's the real key to understanding and defeating this devastating disease. So how does this all work? Let's start by understanding mitochondria. Mitochondria are fascinating little organelles. They actually have their own DNA and are believed to have evolved from bacteria billions of years ago. In a healthy cell, mitochondria use oxygen to produce energy in the form of ATP through a process called oxidative phosphorylation. This energy allows the cell to do its job, whether it's a liver cell managing blood sugar or a brain cell sending electrical signals. When the mitochondria are working properly, they keep the cell in a quiescent, non-dividing state. They help maintain balance across all of our organ systems, from the brain to the liver, from the muscles to the heart. But when the mitochondria get damaged, everything begins to fall apart. If the damage to the mitochondria is sudden and severe, the cell dies. But if the damage is chronic, gradually worsening over time, the cell doesn't die. Instead, it adapts. It switches to a backup energy system, fermentation. This process doesn't require oxygen, and it's far less efficient, but it allows the cell to survive. Over time, this adaptation causes the cell to behave abnormally. It starts to divide uncontrollably, and that's the hallmark of cancer. Cells dividing without regulation, forming tumors. So in Dr. Seyfried's view, cancer is not caused by a genetic mutation. The mutation is a side effect, not the origin. The real problem begins with damaged mitochondria and a broken metabolic system. When the mitochondria lose their ability to produce energy through oxygen, the cell switches to using sugar, glucose, and a specific amino acid called glutamine. These two substances become the main fuel sources for cancer cells. And unlike healthy cells, which can adapt to using fats for fuel when sugar is low, cancer cells are stuck. They are addicted to glucose and glutamine. That's why they grow so rapidly. They're constantly feeding off these energy sources to keep dividing and expanding. This understanding opens the door to a whole new way of treating and preventing cancer. Instead of focusing on killing cells with chemotherapy or trying to repair damaged DNA, Dr. Seyfried suggests a completely different approach. Cut off the fuel supply to cancer cells and support the mitochondria in healthy cells. How do you do that? Through what he calls metabolic therapy. Metabolic therapy is based on the idea of starving cancer cells by removing the glucose and glutamine they rely on. The main strategy here is the ketogenic diet, a high-fat, low-carbohydrate diet that puts the body into a state of ketosis. In ketosis, the body burns fat for fuel instead of sugar. Healthy cells can make this switch easily. Cancer cells cannot. Without glucose, they begin to weaken and die. But it's not just about diet. Dr. Seyfried also recommends caloric restriction and intermittent fasting. These practices lower overall energy intake, reduce insulin levels, and support the repair and regeneration of mitochondria. Intermittent fasting gives the body time to reset its metabolism, while caloric restriction helps reduce the energy supply available to fuel cancer growth. Together, these strategies can create an internal environment where cancer cells starve and healthy cells thrive. So what does this diet actually look like? In a ketogenic diet, the focus is on healthy fats such as olive oil, coconut oil, avocados, grass-fed butter, and MCT oil. Moderate amounts of protein from grass-fed meat, organic poultry, wild-caught fish, and pasture-raised eggs are also included, but not too much, since excess protein can be converted into sugar by the body. Vegetables play a big role too, particularly non-starchy vegetables like spinach, kale, cauliflower, broccoli, and zucchini. These are packed with fiber and nutrients, but don't spike blood sugar. Nuts and seeds like walnuts, chia, and flax can also be added in moderation. Fruits are more limited because of their natural sugar content. However, small amounts of low-sugar fruits like avocados or a handful of berries can be consumed without disrupting ketosis. For people who love carbs, Dr. Seyfried suggests choosing complex carbohydrates from vegetables and legumes instead of processed ones like white bread, pasta, or white rice. These complex carbs have a low glycemic index, meaning they release sugar slowly into the bloodstream and don't cause dangerous blood sugar spikes. One example of a healthy low glycemic fruit is grapefruit. It provides vitamin C and doesn't cause a sudden surge in blood sugar like other fruits might. You can even find entire lists of foods ranked by their glycemic index online to help you make informed dietary choices. Now let's talk about lifestyle. Dr. Seyfried emphasizes that diet alone is not enough. A lack of physical activity, high levels of stress, and exposure to environmental toxins all play a role in damaging our mitochondria. Our Western lifestyle, characterized by processed foods, sedentary behavior, poor sleep, and chronic stress, is a breeding ground for mitochondrial dysfunction and ultimately cancer. By contrast, indigenous populations that still follow their ancestral diets and remain physically active have almost no incidence of cancer. They don't consume processed carbohydrates or refined sugars. They eat natural, whole foods, move their bodies regularly, and live in harmony with nature. Their mitochondria remain strong, and as a result, so do they. This comparison is striking and should serve as a wake-up call. Cancer isn't just a matter of bad luck or bad genes. It's a disease rooted in how we live, what we eat, and how we care for ourselves. Dr. Seyfried's research also highlights success stories. One such story is that of Guy Tannenbaum, a man diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer, high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes. He underwent water-only fasting and metabolic therapy, and his cancer went into remission. His diabetes and hypertension also disappeared. His story is one of many that demonstrate the potential of treating cancer not with toxic drugs, but with food, fasting, and metabolic healing. This approach may not be for everyone, and it should never replace medical care without careful consultation. But the message is clear. There is another way. One that doesn't poison the body but strengthens it. One that doesn't attack the symptom but addresses the root. In summary, cancer is not simply a genetic misfire. According to Dr. Thomas Seyfried, it's a metabolic disease caused by damaged mitochondria and disrupted energy production. The solution isn't found in a lab, but in the way we eat, move, breathe, and live. By focusing on metabolic health through ketogenic nutrition, fasting, exercise, and avoiding environmental toxins, we can not only lower our risk of cancer, but also reverse chronic diseases and reclaim control over our health. We're not powerless. We just need to change the way we think about cancer, from a random genetic curse to a lifestyle-driven condition that can be managed, prevented, and possibly even reversed.